The following is an Infinity One Productions presentation, keeping it honest, insightful, interactive. You're listening to the RCWR Show with Lee Sanders.
All right, Monday night edition of the RCWR Show is back. Your host right here, the Black Avenger, a.k.a. the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders. Pleased to meet you. Nice to know me. Here with a special guest is the one and only Titus Machiavelli. So, Titus, it is now time to talk about a year in review, if you will, on wrestling. Let's start with WWE, and folks, we really tried to do our best to hook you guys up. I personally sat up and I had jotted down some key moments from this past year from WWE, a little bit of good, a little bit of bad, depending on how you want to take it. We'll just fire off, go down the list, maybe chime in on some key points, and, you know, we'll just have right at it. So let's just go right for it, Titus. All right, so first up, we got to look into this year kicking off with CM Punk's historic 434 reign as WWE Champion. It came to an end at the hands of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson at this year's Royal Rumble pay-per-view. How fitting is that, Titus, that we see a historic reign like this, which WWE hyped up, hasn't been seen in like 25 years, comes to an end at the hands of, get this, now one of the highest, grossest Hollywood guys. He surpassed Robert Downey Jr., believe it or not, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Titus, you think we're ever going to see something like this happen again?
Never again. I don't. Are you talking about The Rock and him coming back, like that kind of stuff, or you mean the reign itself?
The reign itself.
The reign itself, not for many, many, many years. It took 25 years or more to have something like that happen. It was magical. I loved it. I hated the times. I mean, during the Attitude Era, you'd have 14 different championship reigns during that calendar year. Love the fact that we had a 434-day reign. It made history. It made something special, something that you counted every single week. Wow, it's 400. It's 407. As opposed to The Rock ending it, I wasn't a big fan of it. I like Rock 1.0 more than I did Rock 2.0. But it was a tremendous part. You can't not talk about 2013 without mentioning that at the start of the year.
Yeah. And, you brought up a second part to that. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he laces up the pair of boots. He comes in, he does the deed with CM Punk, and then he goes on to WrestleMania. He does the proper thing in trying to put John Cena over. Not that John Cena needed it, but we get the point. It was basically once-in-a-lifetime part two. And we see WWE, they realize, oh, snap, after The Rock had got injured, as there was supposed to be some type of a major angle. And this came from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson himself. He did reveal this. There's supposed to be a major angle set up the night after WrestleMania on Raw, where he and Brock Lesnar, they were supposed to cross paths, and basically it was supposed to be a setup, which in hindsight is kind of picking up where Brock Lesnar left off from SummerSlam years back. I think that was SummerSlam 2002, was it?
I think so.
I think it was SummerSlam 2002, but, things didn't work out that way. WWE, they tried to be very optimistic. I mean, really, what I saw during key points this year, Titus, we saw WWE, they took the liberty of putting The Rock on the front cover of WWE's 2K14 video game, trying to play it up to him, trying to be nice to him, mention his movies here and there. And now it just kind of comes off as if they realize, you know what, The Rock, that's it. He's done. Wrestling is behind him now. Everybody wants to see The Rock, the great one, come back, get into the ring again. But, Titus, that's one question I think we need to look into. Will The Rock come back? Me, just looking at how everything has gone down, recent interviews that The Rock has given, I'm getting the vibe that this is behind him now.
I think he is where he needs to be as an ambassador for the WWE. He comes in, can do a promo, can have a moment. In ring, that was his final match. I think that he proved that a guy who takes this part-time has a higher risk of injury. I mean, if The Rock had a longer, if he was doing what he did 10 years earlier on the road every single night, it would have been different. It's hard to be a part-time professional wrestler. Even once a week is hard for guys on the independent scene. Once a week sometimes is just enough to keep you going. I don't think that he will step in the ring again. I think it's going to make a big change and how we look at guys like Batista, who's on hopefully a longer run than what The Rock was on. Chris Jericho, The Undertaker, these guys who only do these, short spots and leave again. I don't know if that's going to be what we're going to see a lot of going forward because of resentment that some of the guys in the locker room give him, the higher risk of injury. I think The Rock set a precedent that this might not be the way to do things. Yeah. And he's making a ton of money. Shouldn't feel bad for The Rock. Highest grossing movie star in Hollywood. He's going to be okay.
Right. Those of you that want to continue to see The Rock in action, he's giving you great memories over the years. Go check out some of his stuff on YouTube. Grab a couple of his DVDs. I mean, really, or pick up a video game, and you can relive your moments that way. But yeah, I think The Rock is definitely done. You were just talking about returns. We saw RVD make his return at this year's Royal Rumble. We saw a new WWE title get introduced. But I'll say this with the whole talk of The Rock. I have a feeling that he will be back in the WWE, but not in the way most of you think. I think WWE is going to want to give The Rock a proper send-off, and by that, I see him being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Now, how long until he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame? If I were a betting man, Titus, I think maybe in the next 5 years.
Oh, sooner. I would even bet probably the next couple. Just because of who he is and why put it off at this point. I don't think it makes sense for New Orleans. I could be wrong, but I think for sure in San Jose or the year after. I think you're right. He'll have a moment like Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair and Edge had, a real send off, and thank you for what you've done. You're the best. And the way he went out, it wasn't a proper send-off for The Rock. Walking out with, torn abdomen, that's not the way you want The Rock to leave. And I think you're right. They will, and they owe it to him. He's done a lot, and he will continue to be, like I said, an ambassador, somebody to help garner some continued legitimacy to professional wrestling. Having a Hollywood star like The Rock being able to come into once or twice a year to help promote the product is a good thing.
We were introduced to Big E Langston, who came up from NXT Developmental. I think we talked at great length about Big E Langston. We don't need to chime in a little bit more on that, right?
No, I think we hit it pretty good.
Yeah, we did good right there. The Shield, they continued their dominance in the WWE, being one of the most talked about stables since the original Nexus, although the future, the way it's looking right now, Titus, it appears that Roman Reigns, honestly, we should extend that even further. All three of those guys, they are going to successfully break away and have a great singles career run. AJ Lee, who was missing from tonight's Raw, I didn't realize this until after the fact, her reign as Divas Champion, 216. Nope, she doesn't have it right now. She's actually at 196. 216 goes to Maurice, and we continue to hear the rumors that Maurice is very close to returning to the WWE. I wonder if WWE knows a little bit more to this whole Maurice coming back, because if I'm WWE and we got the Miz, and we all know Miz, Maurice, they're an item. Titus, I'm kind of getting the vibe that AJ Lee is not going to be able to reach 216 because Maurice may return and put a monkey wrench into that.
Well, I think that's, contract negotiations being what they are, it makes a bigger impact to have Maurice come back and say the longest reigning Divas champion of all time has made her return. It has a bigger impact than the second longest reigning. It doesn't mean as much. So, yeah, you're right. If she is coming back, if that is what's going to happen, no. AJ doesn't break that. Unless they use it somehow on Raw, and her, she breaks it, ties it. Probably should check the calendar and see what day that tie or break comes out. If it lands on Raw, then maybe we see something happen that night.
Yeah, most likely, yeah. Speaking of Divas, we saw the Divas division get a huge boost, if you will, from Total Divas on E. That's given the WWE Divas and their boyfriends, significant others, some exposure time. They've been able to bring in a new audience, I'm sure. Got to give our hats off to E and Total Divas. Dolph Ziggler, I definitely want to talk about this for just a couple of minutes. Dolph Ziggler, best year. This year, he becomes the World Heavyweight Champion, only to lose it a few weeks later due to getting a legit concussion by Alberto Del Rio. Dolph Ziggler just hasn't been the same since, Titus.
Well, I think professional wrestling is all about opportunities and making the best of those that come forward. We all remember, and that's one of the things that stands out in my mind of the year of 2013 was the pop that he had the night after WrestleMania. We all thought he was going to cash in at WrestleMania. Didn't. Came out, got the cash in the Money in the Bank, wins the title. Crowd goes crazy for him. It was the opportunity. And unfortunately, he had something happen with that concussion that took him out of it. The train keeps on rolling, and you have to work yourself back up to the front. Not everybody gets to hop right back into the front. I mean, you're a main eventer. John Cena, Triple H, Randy Orton, they just hop back into the scene. Ziggler was on the way up, and unfortunately the train continued without him. And they've not got him back into a flow. He's, as we talked earlier, he's beaten up by Randy Orton on SmackDown, but he's wiggling his butt on Raw. There's no sense or rhyme or reason. So they got to find something to do with him. I'd like to see him repackaged. He reminds me too much of Badass Billy Gunn. I think of that more than I do Dolph Ziggler. I'd like to see a repackage of Dolph Ziggler and something that makes him new, fresh, and legitimately challenging for a championship.
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. He really needs a repackage. And, folks, when we say repackage, I don't want you guys thinking of something very extravagant or extreme. He can still be the blonde-haired, got the whole arrogant thing going on, but, it kind of reminds me of something one of my colleagues had said on their show a couple of weeks back, because I had a friend of mine, he said, you got to listen to this. And what these guys had said about Dolph Ziggler. And they brought up a very good point. How many guys do you see walking down the street with that hot-ass pink-colored T-shirt that Dolph Ziggler be pushing? It's one thing when you're manly, you feel comfortable about wearing certain colors like that, but you need something that is definitely universal, that can connect with everybody. His merchandise, I dare say, it needs a revamp. It needs a universal revamp. He definitely, I don't know, Titus, maybe he can kind of take a little bit of a page out of Shawn Michaels' playbook. Maybe he can kind of get maybe Vicky Guerrero to be his new sensational Sherry, once again, and they kind of go back to the traditional roots, because those were good times for Dolph Ziggler. Maybe they can kind of go back to that point, and we can see Dolph Ziggler really take off. I mean, we're hearing the rumblings about how he's been rubbing off people in management the wrong way. That's just speculation, but one thing is for certain, this calendar year, it really hasn't been kind to a guy that should be main eventing pay-per-views right now.
I agree with the Shawn Michaels angle. I think that's a great opportunity. You go from the heartbreak kid to a more legitimate sort of, megastar. Same thing can happen with Dolph. He is clearly bumps better than anybody in the business right now. He can take a bump better than I think I've seen in 10 years. But he needs something that isn't as comical. He needs to be a little more serious. You're right. I mean, not many guys are going to rock the pink, a T-shirt. Maybe he needs something a little edgier. He can still be Dolph Ziggler. He can still keep his name. He can still, have, like I said, the blonde hair. But he needs something a little more edgy, a little bit more focused in on, I'm not here to show off as much as win. I'll show off after I win. Seems kind of confusing. It's the other way around. Sometimes you just need to push reset and start over. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's a point where we are with Dolph.
2013 saw the explosion of the tag team division. We got Los Matadors, The Shield, Usos. Briefly, we had CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, R-Truth, Xavier Woods, the Rhodes Brothers, Ryback. So just a big old explosion of the tag team division, really kind of rewinding it back there to the tag teams of the 80s there.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I think that with Triple H taking over a creative side, you see a wrestler in charge of wrestling, and it's clearly something that was missing from the WWE playbook. If you looked at, tag team wrestling at TNA over the last couple of years has been a much better type of division than WWE had. And so you've got legitimate tag teams as opposed to just two guys thrown together. And I hope this continues, because tag team wrestling is special. It's an art form like nothing else. And I've missed it over the last couple of years, and I've really been excited to see this development over the last year.
We also saw Big Show, Rey Mysterio, they're teaming up now. I can't help but look at key guys as I was just thinking about the list of tag teams. Let's home in on Cody Rhodes, Big Show. Let's home in on those two guys for a minute right there. These were two guys at some point in 2013. They were white hot. They were so white hot. In retrospect, it kind of makes you wonder, why weren't these guys elevated even more? And you and me, we talked briefly about Big Show, but let's talk about Cody Rhodes first. What do you think is going on with Cody Rhodes right here? Because it seemed like once that moment had came at Money in the Bank, where it looked as if he was going to get the briefcase for the World Heavyweight title, but instead it went to Damian Sandow. And then just to see where Damian Sandow is now, I kind of can't help but go, well, maybe things should have went the way it was supposed to go down with Cody Rhodes. But then you kind of look at what happened after that point, and Cody Rhodes is getting the rub off from the Authority. He gets fired. You got to bring back Cody Rhodes trending on Twitter. You see his father get involved. You see Goldust get involved. It sets up one phenomenal match at WWE Battleground, where a lot of us feel that the pay-per-view, it wasn't that damn good, wasn't worth anything to talk about. But what the Rhodes brothers did in their match against The Shield, a hell of a match, was nominated for Match of the Year. Cody Rhodes has just been ice cold after that. Titus, you look at Big Show, the same argument can be made about him, bro. You see him, he takes some time off, he comes back, he has this white hot story arc going on when he comes back, as he's at the becking, the calling of the Authority. They're punking him around. It sets up, well, all I want is a match for the WWE title. That happens. Big Show goes on to being his happy self, even dressing up as a big old 7'2", 500-pound New Year's baby. Bro, what's going on with you?
Well, let's talk about Cody at this point. I think Cody is still riding high. Tonight he was missing from the show. There was a house show taking place in Toronto, and I think a lot of guys were split off. The Real Americans, the Rhodes were there. John Cena wasn't on Raw tonight. I think that he's still riding high. The fans are all about Goldust right now, so he's getting a rub off his brother in that sort of old school feel. I think he is hot still, and I think they are going to run this now that we are officially on the outskirts of the road to WrestleMania. I think they're going to take that next twist with him and Goldust. I expect the two of them to be against each other at Mania. I expect a heel turn for Cody. I don't know if he can play the heel as well as he's playing the face, but I have been proven wrong many, many times before. So I think he is still hot. I think when he makes his way to the ring, the crowd pops, they enjoy it. The Big Show, that's another thing altogether. I think that they kind of reboot where they were going with all of the authority. I just read an article here just recently, the last couple of days, trying to blur the lines of good versus bad. So trying to keep the authority sort of a tween, what we call in the business a tween. They're kind of good, kind of bad. You don't know what they're going to do one moment to another. And by redoing that, they kind of lost where Big Show was going. That being said, the Big Show can do anything he wants to do. He's the veteran in the locker room. I don't think anybody in the locker room, except for Mark Henry, has more seniority in the WWE than Big Show does as an active performer. I told you this offline earlier today. I think, by all accounts, he is the leader of the locker room, the same way Undertaker was for many, many years, the same way Andre the Giant was. He's the leader of the locker room, and he can do what he wants to do. I think he dressed as a baby because, come on, a 7.5-foot, 500-pound New Year's baby is funny. And he knows it's funny, and he has fun doing that kind of stuff. He's got a huge heart and a great sense of humor. So I think that's what you're seeing with him, is that they don't know what to do with him that hasn't already been done. And I like to keep him as a face. Hate to see him go heel. I think that gets not in his wheelhouse anymore. But he's definitely kind of floating out there, and that usually happens with him. But I'm going to turn the question on you. What has not been done with the Big Show that hasn't already been done?
I can't help but say a serious and dominant run as a WWE champion.
Okay. Yep, you're right.
You know, because I'm looking at... I don't think it's going to
happen, though, unfortunately.
That's what I'm saying, and it's like with the Authority story arc, he had that opportunity, and I dare say I don't think Big Show is ever going to come that close again to getting the WWE title and then having it for a good minute.
But does he need to? I guess that's the question that you want to go back to. He's a Hall of Famer. He's had a tremendous career, starting in his late teens, main eventing against Hulk Hogan in his debut matches, to being, when he made the switch to WWE, WWF at the time, it was a huge coup, signed a 10-year deal. He's done everything that really needs to be done, said a long reign as champion, but does he really at this point in his career need to have that? He already has a legendary career. There's a lot of young guys out there who, I hate to say that he's in the twilight of his career. He's probably got a number of years left, potentially, but you got the guys like the Wyatts, the Reigns, the Ambrose, these guys who are up and coming. They should be the ones that are shining right now, not the Big Shows and Mark Henrys and Brock Lesnar's and Chris Jericho's and Rob Van Dam's. They're on the twilight. I want these guys to be challenging. I want these guys to be challenging Randy Orton and John Cena for the top spot now.
Best pay-per-views for WWE this year. Would you agree? Extreme Rules, Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, Night of Champions.
Yeah, I would. And I'm always going to have Royal Rumble as one of my favorites of the year, just because of the Rumble itself. Very rarely do you have a bad Royal Rumble. But Royal Rumble is always one of my favorites of the year. I would throw that in there as well.
Okay. We definitely got to show an honorable mention to WWE Battleground, just for the simple fact you had the Rhodes Brothers taking on the Shield. That really it really saved the pay-per-view for a lot of fans. And for those of you that did not see WWE Battleground, maybe you can make that be part of your little thing to do while you're off. That is, if you're off for the New Year's holiday. Check that pay-per-view out. You'll see exactly what we're talking about, why WWE Battleground should get an honorable mention. The future, it's looking very good, Titus. We got Brock Lesnar. He's now back. He's active again. We got Dave Bautista. He's going to be returning January 26th. Most important note, WWE's programming. That includes Total Divas. Every single thing that is on television right now, it's all going to be expiring at the same time. And it's going to be available to go in separate pieces to different networks, or some network can just buy all of them at the same time. Of course, there's also talk about the WWE Network. Titus, what do you see going on with all the programming expiring at the same time? Do you see it going to different media outlets, or do you think try to embrace this whole WWE network?
As a businessman myself, I would be leery of, if the ultimate goal is to have my own network, which I think should be the goal of Vince McMahon. I believe it's the goal of Vince McMahon, and it's the next evolution of professional wrestling sports entertainment. If that is all true, then if they're all expiring at the same time, the plan would be to move them over to the network if it were ready to do. If they're not, I would be leery of switching someplace else. Some of us old fans can remember Raw going from USA to Spike TV. Was on Spike, which was the Nashville network, the national network. Then back to TNN. It was too confusing. If it were me, I would leave. If I don't have my network ready, I leave well enough alone. Sign shorter deals for the future. We all know Raw's on USA. Bam. That's where it should be unless you put it on the network. I think as a businessman, as a business side of things, if they're all expiring at the same time like we believe they all are, then that leads me to believe that the network is ready to go. And if you look at WrestleMania 31's logo, you see the WWE logo is exactly the same logo as what we saw on the network logo to be. So that gives me a little more insight that maybe we're ready to flip the switch and go live.
Very interesting story that's going on with all of WWE's programming. I can't help but say if the network, their own WWE network, is not ready, you got a good thing going, why ruin it? I think Main Event has been doing phenomenally well on the ION channel. WWE has a great relationship with NBC. We got the Tribute to the Truth special. That seems to do pretty good on NBC. The WrestleMania replays on NBC afterwards. Raw on USA Network. Not to mention, if you guys miss Raw and SmackDown and all that good stuff during the week, you can actually kick back on the weekend, whether it's on Hulu Plus. You can see what all you missed. I think they got a really good deal going, and I don't think they should ruin it. But, 2014, I really think it's really looking good for WWE.
One more thing on the network before I move on. I think that the network is ready to be launched from a parental standpoint. Here I am watching Monday Night Raw with my 10-year-old, and we've talked about the Monday Night Wars. Now having a network where you can watch your Monday Night Raw every single Monday, and then you're able to watch in order every Tuesday WCW Monday Nitro, the ECWs, the WCCWs, the AWAs. That is what me, the wrestling fan, is really ready for, is that 24-hour network. And I think it's ready to strike. And I'll leave it at that.
I'm with you 100% on that one. Lord knows I stay looking for some classic wrestling to watch on cable, and I go online. So, take my money, WWE, when you get that network ready. That's what everybody is saying. Let's switch gears up. I saw a couple of questions here I was going to put out there, but we can save those for cliffhangers for another time. Let's jump the gun and let's go to TNA. Now, TNA, and Titus knows because I sent him a little bit of highlights here, TNA. A lot of stuff has gone on this year with TNA wrestling. My God, I mean, it's like, woo, and we don't even need to, pause every 5 minutes to, talk about. Let's just get you guys caught up to speed that don't know what's been going on with TNA or you haven't checked it out this year.
I can sum it up really quick, Mr. Lee Sanders. I can say this. Whoever you want to put their name has been released and or left their contract at TNA. That is the year of 2013 at Total Nonstop Action. So many people have been released or have asked for their release or have contracts have expired. That is TNA from day one, January the 8th, 2013, when Pope leaves, to Jeff Jarrett leaving just 1 week ago.
Titus will tell you because he said to me tonight, he said, he said, can you send me some bullet points of what you're going to talk about? And for our TNA segment, you know, I literally did the homework for this show tonight. I'm like, okay, I know TNA. They've had a shaky year. Let me just look up. And I was at the computer for like about an hour. And I just found like all this stuff. And Titus, tell them, brother, it's like the list is so long of the releases and just crap that's going on. You're like, what?
It's January 8th, January 8th, January 9th, January 22nd, January 24th, May 24th. Then you got July 4th, or June 4th, you have Alex Silva and Doug Williams and Todd. It just doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with TNA. And it makes me happy I lost the gut check challenge. Because my name would be on
the list. How you really feel, Titus? I mean, you know, in all seriousness, though, all the releases, right, and you put that on top of TNA Wrestling going, okay, well, you know, this whole going on live tour to different cities, it's not working out so good because we're not really making money. Well, we're going to go back to the Impact Zone in Florida. Yeah, we're going back home, but we're going to do it in a really unique way that's going to be really cool, and you guys will dig it. But then they only do it for about 6 shows because they get word that WWE is looking to have a permanent Hall of Fame venue at Universal Studios in Florida. So now TNA is kind of going, well, where's our new permanent home going to be? So now they're taking a huge back step, if you will, because now they're going to be performing in high school gymnasiums, community colleges, and it's kind of like, okay, you've been around for about 11 years now. It's one thing if this is WWE NXT or Extreme Rising, and I'm not knocking those promotions. I'm just saying, hey, you kind of got to claw your way for a little bit before you can do like WWE and just be performing at big venues every single week. But Titus, for a company to be at this for 11 years, they went from being, and I was one of those fans, I said TNA Wrestling like 10 years ago, take my money every single week because you guys are doing a 2-3 hour weekly TV show on pay-per-view. I've been with them that long, so to see them go from that to getting their deal on FSN, to getting their deal on Spike, going on the road, and then they're doing this, it's like a major, major step backwards.
Well, you know, I've worked at independent wrestling promotions that outdrew TNA and don't have a national television contract. That's the problem here. We're talking about not just 11 years. We're talking about a national television contract that is now taped at least several weeks in advance. I mean, you can see spoilers for almost every show. You go from having monthly pay-per-views to we're going to give you these for free one Thursday a month because you can't afford to put them on pay-per-view and your buy rates are so low. This is a real issue. And, you know, it doesn't take a wrestling fan, you know, it takes a businessman to sit back and go, look, this is a problem. You clearly can't afford to go on the road, which whoever's decision that was, we can blame Hulk Hogan. I blame Dixie Carter. To be real, she's the boss. It stopped with her. If you can't afford to go on the road, somebody should have had it's a simple profit and loss report, Lee. This is how much money we need to make to do this to break even. And can we do this? And this is the worst case scenario. This is the best case scenario. Someone didn't do their homework. This is a catastrophe. And I hope somebody does end up buying TNA away from the Carters because they've done nothing but copy WWE, and they're always 3-4 steps behind where they need to be.
You know, I've never heard anybody bring up this subject. I might be way off, and I may ruffle some feathers with what I'm about to say, but could it really just be downright about incompetence, and or could this be maybe a factor of somebody is pocketing the money? By that, somebody is altering the books.
Well, if that's the case, that's a lot harder thing to do. I think it comes down to a non-wrestling entity running a wrestling company. Let's rewind back, and we have the Turner Sports running a wrestling entity that they didn't know how to run either, and what happened there. You need wrestling people running wrestling shows. Vince McMahon tried to run a football league. Shouldn't have. He wasn't a football guy. And what happened? The XFL went out of business. You need to have somebody who loves this business, that bleeds this business. I remember it was a show about the Monday Night Wars, Hulk Hogan saying during the Monday Night Wars that Vince McMahon will die before he gives up. Something to that effect. And that's the thing, is that this is personal to him. It's his industry. It's what he does. He's a third-generation promoter. That's my issue, is that you've got Dixie Carter, who's running a wrestling show because it's fun. Is it something to do? Is it something to highlight her career? I don't know what it is. But when the founder leaves, whether it's, some people are saying it's an angle, some people are saying that he'll debut back, and I don't know that to be true. And I've known people who've worked in the TNA offices, and they're just as stunned about this as anybody. It's a big deal when Jeff Jarrett leaves the company he founded.
Talk about that a little bit. Yeah, well, I mean, from your contacts and all that, I mean, how is it for folks in TNA that's hearing this news of Jeff Jarrett? Because, a lot of folks, and I think they're not really that well informed. When a lot of folks hear that Jeff Jarrett has left TNA, they go, oh, well, so what? What's the big deal? And it's kind of like, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And if you just say, well, Jeff is leaving, it's either not a big deal or it's an angle, yeah, on its own, it's not a big deal. But when you look up the list you have, and gosh, if people could see this list, it's crazy with the number of people who have left the company, the amount of money being spent on people like Rampage Jackson, the amount of the television with non-live events and pay-per-views going away. And then you add in things like, I know a lot of people lost their job that aren't on this list. Guys in the offices, guys in the tourism section, who booked all the hotel and the flights and all that stuff, lost their jobs. I know this for a fact. So it's not just Jesse Sorensen being released. It is a lot of office people. A lot of shakeups have taken place. D'Lo Brown let go. It's not one thing. It is 1,000 things and a bunch of big things to add up to it. Hulk Hogan is about one thing. He's about money. There is none. He's left. That says it right there. If there is money to be made, Hulk Hogan would be there. He needs it as much as anybody.
How's the future looking for, I can't believe I'm asking this question, but 2014, how is TNA Wrestling looking? Is this a promotion, honestly, all joking aside, is this a promotion that we're going to be talking about in 2015, hell, in 2020, in 2030?
It depends. I'm going to lay it out there, and people can get mad. If the Carter family owns it, it's on its way out the door. Spike TV is not going to continue to throw money at something that's, garnering a 1 market share on television. It's not enough. And it dips down. Infomercials get more viewers sometimes than TNA Wrestling. If it's sold off to somebody with a passion, then maybe it can have a second chance. What was a big rumor that what's his name from the Smashing Pumpkins was going to buy it. God, I hope not. He's doing a great job with the indie wrestling company up in Chicago. We need a wrestling guy to save TNA. And let me get this, I want TNA to be successful. As an independent wrestling manager, and the guys that I've seen across this country who belong in wrestling, when there's only one company to do with that, and they've got their own developmental, you don't make it as easy as you do if there's a TNA out there. If Ring of Honor does, bigger. I want these companies to be big and profitable, because then there's more jobs for guys like me and the guys on the independent wrestling scene. So I'm all for TNA making money. Before anybody is out there calling me a TNA basher, I'm not. I want them to. I try to get a job with them. So I want them to survive. I don't know if they are, Lee. I don't know if they are. If they're continuing where they're at now, not a chance.
I dare say the future looks really, really grim for them right now, and I'm with you. Look, you guys know I'm a huge TNA fan. Hell, we've had actual TNA wrestlers come on our show at some point. We're actually trying to work on having more TNA stars come by the show. I love the promotion. If I had any type of a problem with the promotion, I wouldn't talk TNA wrestling with you guys every single week, cover their pay-per-views. I'm with Titus. I definitely want for the promotion to succeed as well, but when you have all of these factors and you look at the list that I put together, and Titus, it's long as hell. When you look at it, reeks of nothing but negative energy when you're looking at this list. Okay, that's how hardcore it is. This is like a long cup of coffee, like a long walk with a cup of coffee. That's how long the list is. You can't help but say, man. And when you key in on certain names on this list, and you're like, damn, so TNA, they couldn't even work with this person? They couldn't work it out with this cat? What the hell is going on over there? You got all these great minds that's coming through there for a hot minute, and they're rolling out. You can't help but wonder just where exactly is this company going to be going in the next couple of years. Will it be able to survive? And I dare say, I think TNA wrestling, I don't care what Dixie Carter says with this whole, what's the word that she's throwing around? Profit, we're profit positive or some bull crap like
right.
that. You can feed me that crap all you want. We know the real deal. You guys are struggling. And as if Smashing Pumpkins' Billy Corgan possibly being the guy to try to own TNA wrestling was bad enough, now we're hearing through unconfirmed sources that country singer Toby Keith is the one that was interested in buying the TNA promotion, and that basically this is part of the reason why Jeff Jarrett left, was because he's good friends with Toby Keith, and basically he was coming around just in case a deal was going to go through. Until you guys can name me sources, until I hear from Toby Keith himself on Twitter, yeah, I was interested in buying TNA wrestling, things didn't work out. Everything is just rumors. Let's deal with the facts. They've had a lot of people come and go. People want to say, Titus, that this Jeff Jarrett thing is part of a story angle. He's going to be back with AJ Styles in the spring. Everybody's just latching on to this. Let me tell you something. This is some real reality right here. If you're a real TNA wrestling fan, then you're going to remember the last time that Jeff Jarrett really had anything to do in front of the camera with the TNA promotion. He did a match with Jeff Hardy, and the stipulation was if Jeff Hardy lost, he was going to be fired. And as a result of that, him, Karen Jarrett, they went on down and did some stuff with AAA some more. Rinka King, as good as that was, that had pretty much got wrapped up. It didn't get picked up. And Jeff Jarrett, he's pretty much been doing his thing on the independent circuit, enjoying the good life. And I'm saying this for a reason. If this was a work, then explain to me, how do you explain Jeff Jarrett being fired from TNA Wrestling only to be back in the company? You have to be consistent with a story arc.
And here's something that really makes me think that, this is not a storyline. At this point, they should be, and it looks like they're circling the wagons. They're trying to save money where possible. They're trying to come up with, ways of gaining interest. You don't have your most notable names for your history, like AJ Styles and Jeff Jarrett, leave in a negative way. Because if I'm a fan and I'm on the fence of giving up on TNA, and I've been a fan since if I was a fan who bought the once a week pay-per-view television shows, and I'm on the fence and AJ Styles leaves because he's not getting paid enough, and the founder leaves because he's having, well, then I'm going to leave too. So that doesn't, to me, create a great storyline because they'll come back. Right now, you don't need guys leaving in that negative way. You need them staying and saying, no, you fans want to stay because something big is on the way. It's not a work. And if I'm wrong, I'll come on the show, call me. I'll come on the show, and I'll say I'm wrong. I just don't buy it because now's not the time when ratings are at terrible levels. Public opinion is that you're going out of business. You need to be doing something other than having your two biggest names in the history of your company taken off. And I look at this one date on this list is something that if I were AJ Styles, on 6/2, Kurt Angle's announced as the second Hall of Fame nominee. That's a WWE guy going into the TNA Hall of Fame, where Jeff Jarrett should have been the guy going in the Hall of Fame. AJ Styles should have been the guy going in the Hall of Fame. That's a date that really sticks out in my mind. If I'm a TNA lifer, why the hell is the WWE guy going on to the Hall of Fame? Oh, I know Kurt Angle hasn't done a whole lot for TNA. He hasn't drawn the numbers that they said he was going to draw. He's only been there, 5 years or so. He's got several personal issues going on. I think a lot of things wrong with TNA right now, and I don't buy a work that Jeff Jarrett's going to come back and save the day with AJ Styles. I just don't see it. They need management.
They need it big time, and they need it in a big way. I'm really hoping that with all these budget cuts that they're doing, my advice to TNA Wrestling, you guys are on the right path, and if I could just suggest a couple of other things. Coach Titus had some classic matches over the years. I dare say, full of WWE playbook, pull one of their pages. Make some of those matches be available on DVD. They've got a great entire library. I don't know if maybe they're dealing with a couple of pieces of red tape from FSN, but if there's a way that they can, kind of loosen up so they can get a hold of these, I think they would make a killing with it. If they made it be available on their YouTube channel and all that, because we know nowadays YouTube, they got this whole paid account thing going on where you can basically pay for premium content. But I think that's something that TNA could definitely tap into. It's not a good sign when you see almost every single week TNA Wrestling is offering like 50% off new merchandise on their website.
So I'm saying.
Seriously. I want nothing but the best for them, and here's hoping that the best is coming, because right now it's looking really bad for them. Let's take a pause. Let's welcome you guys. Thank you guys for staying up with us. I definitely want to get to some of you guys' questions or comments. Number to call is 646-478-3525. Once again, that's 646-478-3525. We actually got a couple of people that's on the air right here. And a special shout-out to Trey. Trey, if that's you, buddy, hit the prompt button, because I definitely want to get your take on this as well. We got a couple of callers here. Let's go to, and these are new callers, Titus. Let's go to a caller from, looks like out of the country, 011. When we put you guys on the air, let us know your first name and where you're calling from. Caller from 011. You're live on the air, my friend.
Hello?
Caller. Yeah, hey, bro, you're live with Lee and Titus, RCWR Show. How you doing?
Oh, crap. I didn't realize that I pressed the one button accidentally. I'm sorry. I accidentally pressed it. I was just trying to listen.
Go ahead. Enjoy listening. It's okay. It looks like we've got a caller from Skype, Titus. I believe this is Skype. I'm still new to Skype. Next caller, you're live on the air, my friend.
Hello, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. My name is Luigi. I'm calling from Pittsburgh, PA. And I just tuned into the show, and you guys were talking about, TNA and Kurt Angle, not really being that, the big thing that TNA, wanted him to be. I've been a fan of pro wrestling since the early 80s, and I've tried to follow TNA as much as I can. But has there really been, in your opinion, anybody that's really been that big knockout star? Because if you really look at who they've tried to, bring up, Sting, Flair, Hogan, I mean, to me, for the exception of Sting, they're all, Vince's, wash-ups.
I agree fully, Lee. I mean, I think he hit it right in the head. Sting has been the biggest name they've brought in to have the most impact. Deserves that nomination in the Hall of Fame. When you have the great Hulk Hogan, he had a small bump, but it was short-lived. It was nostalgia. You're right. Nobody has brought a single big moment to TNA. Not one guy they brought in.
I agree 100%, and especially when you just look at the names that have been affiliated with TNA over the years. My God, let's just go with a couple of big names. How can you go wrong with a Hulk Hogan? How can you go wrong with a Sting? How can you go wrong with Ric Flair, Mick Foley, Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall? I believe Sean Waltman was even in there for a hot minute. Ninth Wonder of the World, China. How can you go wrong with all these people? Bobby Lashley, Ken Shamrock. Some would dare say that was probably one of the most greatest moments in TNA history was Ken Shamrock getting the TNA champion there, the NWA champion. You think about all the names that's come into the company, and no, there really has not been that one guy that has been able to just grab TNA fans by the balls and say, I'm going to take you to new heights, stick with me, let's do it, and that's unfortunate.
And I think Kurt Angle could have been that guy. He probably he was still pretty fresh off the WWE roster. He had a lot of wind behind his back. He wasn't on the back end of a career. He probably had the biggest opportunity to make that impact, and even he didn't do it.
So all those guys that's been affiliated with TNA Wrestling, if they haven't been able to do it, then it's kind of like, and this is no disrespect to Magnus, I think it's awesome times right now that they have the first ever English champion. Magnus, he's come a long way. I will admit that. I dare say this was a smart move that TNA Wrestling did, making Magnus be the champion. We all can be in agreement. Bully Ray and Titus, Bully Ray. That's an entirely different topic, but Bully Ray, God bless him, because he is probably one of the best shining examples of what has been good in TNA. Just his whole evolution. I really have been enjoying it. But other than that,
I was a big fan of the Aces and Eights. I think they screwed that up too. I thought they had a great angle, a great topic. Sons of Anarchy is a big time show. It's a hot topic. They took it too NWO-ish. It's been done. We've seen it. And
yeah,
you're right. Bully Ray, I don't know if Bully Ray was the guy to put as the head of Aces and Eights. That being said, he did a damn good job in that role.
A very damn good job. Let's go to Trey from Savannah. Trey, you're live, buddy.
Hey, Lee and Titus. Glad to be on the show. If I could continue from what Titus said, I completely agree with him with the Aces and Eights angle. It was a good idea at first, but in my opinion, I think they kind of messed it up when they just stretched it out way too long than they should have. They had everybody's interest until they just kept doing the same thing with the mask guys. Then at one point, nobody cared who was in the mask anymore. And then when the time everybody got a mask, the interest kind of just flat out gone. So with Aces and Eights gone, Bully Ray is really interested to see where he goes from here, because he made this transformation to a singles wrestler, without Devon, without anybody else. And so far he's been pretty good. I hope to see where this new gimmick he's going with goes, just as long as they don't make the same mistake and just drag it out until nobody just care anymore.
Trey, we only got a few minutes, but Titus, I definitely wanted to get Trey's thoughts, because Trey watches TNA Impact every week. just hearing what we've been saying about the product so far, what is your confidence in TNA Wrestling? Do you have great concern about this company?
All around, I say TNA would make it through the next year, but I'm not 100% confident in the product itself. Maybe if they actually, like you said, had a wrestling guy, someone in the wrestling business that kind of know wrestling, then they might actually make it through another 5 years. But at this point, it'll be a miracle if they do.
Well, Trey, I'll ask you this. If tomorrow night was a $50 pay-per-view between WWE and TNA the same night, and you had $50 to spend, where are you putting your money?
WWE, hands down.
And that's unfortunate. I think that's where it comes down to.
Yeah.
And it's not because their stars are any bigger. I mean, like you said, Lee, it had a huge roster there. It comes down to execution.
Exactly. Execution. And let's leave it at that, folks, as we're winding down 3 minutes and counting until showtime is over. Titus, man, great honor to have you back on the show. We went into some mad overtime, but I think we did this for the listeners. I think we did it for you guys justice as we went all over the place. Titus, in retrospect, man, 3 minutes or less, what do you see the future of wrestling? It seems like it's going in a positive direction. We got promotions like Extreme Rising. They're now trying to offer fans an alternative as they're going to be launching a weekly series come January 1st. We see so many other promotions that's trying to get something going here, if not weekly, maybe on pay-per-view and all that. What's your take on wrestling in 2014 and beyond?
I got a high take on wrestling based upon social media. With the internet, you're going to have small companies that never could get a TV contract, doesn't need a TV contract because of iPay-per-view, Ustream, YouTube, you name it. And that has also got the attention of the big guys. WWE has signed a lot of independent wrestlers over the last couple of years. It is a good time to be in professional wrestling, and I think it's going to be a second, renaissance in the next year or two, where we're going to be like, this is a big time in wrestling once again. I think we're on that verge, Lee. I think we're right there.
I agree with you, and I will say social media, it really has. I've seen it with my own two eyes. Extreme Rising is a promotion. Shine Wrestling, that's another. Ring of Honor, they've even been able to pick up a little bit more momentum. I think social media has really been playing a very positive role in a big way for a lot of indie promotions. And yeah, Titus, I definitely echo the same words as you. Give the folks listening out there links where all they can check you out and everything.
www.titusmachiavelli.com, best place to go. Hit me up on Twitter @EvilGeniusTitus. Everything you need on the website, 24/7, social media.
Awesome. The one and only Titus Machiavelli. Titus, thank you so much, bro. I really appreciate it. I'll actually hit you up right after we go off the air.
Sounds good.
All right, bro. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it. 2013 in the books. We've had a lot of great guests stop by the show. We've had your continued support. Really, we appreciate it. We wouldn't be on the air if we didn't continue to get the great support and feedback from you guys. It's really been a fast year, a damn good year for us. Let's do it again in 2014. We'll see you guys this Thursday night for our TNA Impact Wrestling coverage at 11 p.m. Eastern. You can catch it here and also on YouTube. Be safe. Be kind to one another. Everybody take care.